Welcome to Knife Thoughts. This video is going to be on this knife, and this is a Sean Yaw custom Barlow. I'm also going to talk about this slip that I got made to match it, which is from Sage Grouse leather. But if you're not familiar with Sean Yaw, he is a custom knife maker, and he is on Instagram at Sean_Yaw, that has been making slip joint knives almost exclusively. He has made, I think, a couple fixed blades, but almost exclusively traditional style knives. He's made one or two locking knives now at this point, an electrician's knife, but mostly slip joint traditional knives like this. And I've been following his work for a long time, really honestly since I saw a video that Advanced Knife Bro made about a knife that he had from Sean. And I really love following him on Instagram. He shares a lot of the process of his knife making, so you get to see kind of the steps and the knives in their unfinished state, and it's really cool. Now, I got to check out some of his knives and do a review and kind of look at the progress along some of his earlier knives. His knives are numbered, so you can see this one has 39 on the back of the tang. And I got to see some of his earlier knives, and even two that were really similar, but kind of one was earlier and one was later, and do a video on, those knives and the progress. And I really enjoyed getting to check those knives out. I really appreciated Sean loaning them to me, and since then have continued to follow and enjoy following his work. And now Sean knew that I am a big fan of Barlows. I started the Barlow Bearcat Club and love Barlow knives. And I think I had been messaging him just about some of his knives that he was making on Instagram, and he started asking me some questions about like what I like in a Barlow. And honestly, I just thought it was, just conversation. We talked about different patterns and things like that before. And, he asked, what's your favorite type of handle on a Barlow? And I said, I think there's nothing more classic than saw cut. And what color do you like? Oh, well, of course, rust or reddish or brown are always classic, but I've always, liked the more kind of unique colors like purples and things like that. And out of the blue, I received a package. Well, actually, there's kind of a funny story to me getting the actual package with this knife in it. And that is that Sean said, hey, you should have a package. And I said, I don't, but that's exciting. And he said, well, don't get too excited. It's nothing big or something like that. I've got a tractor going by. I actually think that is my father-in-law driving by. So sorry about the noise, but said, don't get too excited or anything, but he should have a package. So I looked, and he had sent the package to my mom's house, actually, where I'd been living when he sent his earlier knives for me to do a video on. And so I was, just dying to see what was in this package. And finally, I got to open it up, and this absolutely incredible, beautiful knife was in the package. Now, something that I guess I probably should have mentioned earlier about Sean and his knives is that he doesn't sell knives. So, there's a lot of custom knife makers out there who you can buy knives from. Maybe they have a long wait time, or they're really expensive, or sometimes both. But Sean, as far as I know, has never sold one of his knives. He gives them to people, uses them. I've seen him give them to friends and family a lot. And, so he just doesn't sell them. Now, I believe that the reason for that is that he, wants to make sure that he really has mastered the craft, and doesn't think that they're ready for being sold. Now, I have had some custom slip joints. I have some now, and I haven't really had any in the, crazy expensive 500 plus, 1,000 plus range. But his knives that I saw that were earlier in his knife making, definitely, especially the later ones of the ones I saw, compared favorably to a lot of the custom knives that I have had or seen. And, even I would say that from just from seeing the progress that was made along those three lines that I did knives that I did the video on, you can tell that he's moving towards that kind of place of being masterful in the craft. Like, not just a a knife maker who makes really nice knives, and they're really nice, but you know, there's just things off about them. And nothing, no shade on people who are like that. I mean, I've never made a slip joint knife at all, let alone a beautiful, nearly perfect one. But you could tell that he was moving towards that realm of, you know, people that are considered masters of the craft. And of course, you know, I'm kind of biased by social media, but I see people like, you know, Jason Ritchie and Mike Moran and, you know, the Esnix knives and things like that. And I think that I could tell from those earlier knives that that's where Sean was going. So of course he doesn't sell these knives, but they're really, really beautiful. And so getting one was really special for me. I love Barlow knives. I've been kind of, the Barlow Bearcat Club has been, I've moved a lot of the time that I spend on like knife social media and the knife community into the Barlow Bearcat Club. So I'm really focused on Barlows. And so it was really, really special to me to get this knife from Sean. And it really is an incredible knife. So I'll show you this card again here. Got an eagle flying overhead. But you can see that this is serial number 39. So the 39th knife that he has completed and numbered. Date completed, 5/1/23. So this year here, right before he sent it to me. It is his Barlow, obviously. It's in CPM Crew Wear, which is a steel that I don't have a lot of experience with, or didn't before I got this knife. I have had it for a while, as you can tell from when this video is actually coming out. And it's at 64.8 HRC. So that is a nice high hardness. And I think on a slip joint like this, where you're not going to be like batoning with it or anything crazy like that, a nice high hardness on a tough steel like Crew Wear is a really nice thing. And I'll talk more about using this knife later, but it has been superb. And then the handle material, as I mentioned, saw cut bone, and just signed by Sean there. So like I say, saw cut bone, really, I think it doesn't get any more classic than that. And I want to kind of highlight this saw cut. So it is a beautiful kind of teal, aquamarine, almost kind of turquoise color that really is, honestly, I don't remember exactly what color I said I wished I could find a Barlow in. I don't remember if it was this, but this is basically my favorite color. I love kind of like very bright colors like this. I like purples and pinks and lilacs and things like that too. But I mean, literally the shorts I'm wearing right now are this color. So I really like this color, and it is really beautifully done. It's not perfectly even, so it gives it that nice character to it. Hopefully this will focus better. There we go. You can see that beautiful variation in color, a little darker here, lighter down here, a little lighter on this side, but some darkness down here, and a little bit up there. I just absolutely love the color that Sean got on this. And the saw cut, the actual texture, is really, really nice also. So I didn't pull out another saw cut knife to compare it to. I definitely should have. But it is a beautiful, deep, but not too deep, saw cut texture. And now, you know, I think Sean, you know, would appreciate me pointing out things like this, and I think take it in a constructive way, because hopefully you can tell from how I've talked about this knife so far that I absolutely love this knife. I think that it is an excellent knife, a superb knife, nearly perfect. One thing I will just show, there's a little bit of chipping at this one pin in the bone. Kind of tough to see because it's very, very small. But other than that, this bone is just beautiful. Just beautiful. You can see a little bit of tooling there on that little side, but absolutely beautiful bone on this. I think that he did an incredible job, and it's something that I think is difficult. It's a difficult part of the process, is getting the color and the texture on bone knives really, really well dialed in. So for example, Great Eastern Cutlery keeps their bone dyeing and jigging processes very secretive. They don't let you go into the room where it is done. So I think that it's really impressive that Sean did such a great job on this. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm actually getting over a cold or something here, and was trying to fight through and not have to clear my throat, but hopefully that wasn't too loud for you. But moving on to the bolster, you can see that this is both lined and what you would call a rat tail. So this is what I would call a rat tail. And I showed this to Charlie Campagna at the rendezvous, at the Great Eastern Cutlery rendezvous this year, and I was trying to figure out what is the difference between fluted bolsters, lined bolsters, threaded bolsters, and rat tail bolsters. And so my understanding from talking with actually Charlie and Lau Fry is that this type of wide kind of concave line like this is rat tail, particularly when it is, you know, close to the bottom of the bolster. And then a thread and a line are kind of the same thing from talking with them. Not a huge difference. And then fluted is different. Fluted is actually like a pattern that radiates from a point. And an interesting kind of, I don't know, coincidence is that Sean then made a Barlow for himself with truly fluted bolsters. So that was really cool talking with Charlie, and he was like, yeah, you hear people say that a bolster is fluted when it's really not, you know. And then Sean made a fluted bolster Barlow, and it was beautiful. He actually used it to apply to the Barlow Bearcat Club, and was a really cool application. He did like an art museum style description of the knife, but really, really beautiful fluting on I believe it was copper bolster. So that was really cool, but this has both lines or threads and a rat tail bolster. I think it looks great. It's very unique. It's different than most bolsters. Here, I'm going to show you, this is a size comparison, but you can see this is a lined bolster here on a TC Barlow. But it gives it a really, I think, classy look, a little bit more upscale versus a normal Barlow that just has maybe one line or the bolster stamp or something like that. This really, I think, upscales it for me. And it is just looks great. Really, really beautiful. I love the size of the bolster. It's pretty much a perfect size bolster for a Barlow. And then moving on to the blade, this is a classic drop point or spear point. I would call it more of a spear point style blade. I think that this is about as classic as it gets for a Barlow. Of course, I love a sheepfoot Barlow. I love a clip point Barlow, but I think that a spear point is just a classic working blade shape. And it is, you know, beautiful with some straight edge, a nice gradual belly, a usable but not super pointy tip, nice drawn swedges on both sides. And I will tell you what, this blade is ground to cut. It is incredibly thin. I am just so impressed with the grind on this, and I think that is probably the biggest, I don't know, area of improvement or change that I see between this knife and the earlier knives that I got to check out for my previous video on the Shanya knives. Those knives were certainly ground well for sure, but this one is just another level. I will tell you what, it is incredibly ground, and I have used this knife a lot. I would say that I've carried this at least 90% of the days that since I've gotten it, and I really I want to carry it every day. I've actually had to force myself to carry other knives because I wanted to review them or whatever, but I love carrying this knife, and it just, part of it is because it does cut so well. One of my main cutting tasks these days is cutting food into baby bite size. Speaking of which, I see on the monitor that my son just woke up, so this video probably won't be a whole lot longer. But it just does so well. It cuts beautifully. It came so sharp. I did sharpen it. I've touched it up and then eventually had to actually sharpen it, and it sharpened up beautifully. Just cuts incredibly. And then another thing is that the nail nick is really well done. Another area of even more improvement. Just super crisp nail nick. Now the action is something else. Just perfect. I mean, it's a 5-pull, easily pinchable, as you can see, which I love. Just grab that nail nick, especially because it is so crisp. You can grab it with your kind of skin of your thumb, and it is beautiful. Perfect action. I couldn't really ask for anything more. That's really all I can say. Perfect action, perfectly centered. Sits pretty deep into the frame there, so no proud tip, which of course, you know, I hate proud tips. So just superbly made. And it's a beautiful size for a Barlow too. It's a little bigger than a 15, so you can see the 15 there, and it's a little smaller than an 86. So it sits right between those two, and I think that it is an absolutely beautiful size for a Barlow knife. Big enough to get work done, not too big that it's hard to carry. Just, I mean, really fits exactly what I would want in a user Barlow. And this is a user knife for me. Sean has said, you know, carry it, get it scratched up, you know, use it, tell me what you think, and that's what I've been doing. And speaking of using it or carrying it, I decided to get a slip made by River of Sage Grouse Leather. You see him making slips for Jack Wolf knives, and you know, just a lot of really beautiful tooled leather slips and other leather work. And so I decided to get one. Now the first slip that he made was a little small. It you know, I'd been carrying this in a slip from Lynch Leather, Justin Lynch, and that slip was, you know, I liked it. I liked the slip a lot. I love Justin's leather work, but it was a little small. The bolsters were really close to the edge of the slip, so I wanted one that it sat a little deeper in, just to keep it a little bit more, you know, protected. And the first one that I got from Sage Grouse Leather was actually a little bit shorter. It was it was pretty much right at the top. Now I didn't send this knife in for him to, you know, build the slip around. He said he'd be able to do it from dimensions, and it just ended up being a little small, but he was extremely gracious about it. You know, took my feedback really again, gracefully, however you want to say it, and made me another one, no extra cost or anything. And I really appreciated that, because I did want to have a really nice slip to carry this in. Again, I love Lynch leather, but I just didn't have one that was the exact size for this. And so you can see that it has beautiful tooling on there, and then kind of matching dots. Really love how it matches the color. Some maroon around the edges, which I like the contrast of that, especially with the, again, matching thread, and kind of the same deal but with the logo on the other side here. So really makes it a nice package. You can see it drops in if you're squeezing it. If you shake it without squeezing it, it stays in there, but then squeeze that and it drops right out. So I've been using this to carry it since I got this, and I think that it's really great. It's a very thick slip. It's thicker really than any other slip from any other maker that I've had. So it gives it a very kind of hefty, durable feel that I think makes it feel like this knife is really protected as I would like it to be. So I love this knife. I think that Sean Yaw is definitely on the way to being a true master of the craft. I think that this knife, if I had bought this knife, I have no idea what, you know, he would charge for it, but I think I would be just as thrilled as I am on the quality. I'm more thrilled because he thought of me, he made it for me, made it with me in mind, and gave it to me, and that really means a lot to me. That's really what makes this knife special. But I think from a quality standpoint, It is an incredible custom knife, and I think Sean is doing really great things, and it's really, again, meaningful to me to have a piece of his art, and I would consider this very functional but very artistic also. So I want to thank Sean. You know, I've told him, of course, personally, but I want to thank him publicly here for this knife. I love it. I carry it all the time. I use it all the time. My son, I think, recognizes it when I take it out. He knows he's going to get some food cut up for him. And so it means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. I really love it. It's an absolutely beautiful knife, and I hope you, viewer, have enjoyed getting to check it out also. So if you have, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. You can select, subscribe, click the bell, and select all so you know when I post new videos. Check out my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife-related topics. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.